Well, good morning, everyone. It is Saturday morning, and I am going to conclude with the third part of the video for PowerPoint Chapter 2. They say the third time's a charm. So let's find out. So we left off on e-business, e-commerce, and e-government. We did talk a little bit about it, and I think that we know pretty much the difference. We are all doing e-business and e-commerce, and some of us are doing e-government. So the e-business, of course, when you're doing something like Amazon, and you may be the company or you may be the consumer in here, but you're using digital technology and the processes that you're doing. Even yesterday when I was at Flanagan's, I actually did e-business because there's a Flanagan's app, and if you have lunch there, then you get a little Joe's Head on your app. You get 10 Joe's Heads, and you get a free lunch over there, which are really pretty nice. So the lunches are good there, and they're relatively inexpensive, but free is still better than free. So that technically was e-business on their part, and technically on my part. E-commerce is everything you order from Amazon, or if you go to Walmart.com, you go to Home Depot, or any of those sites in there. Some of you have bought the book through various different sites. That's e-commerce. E-government, probably the best example I can give you is your Social Security check. You can go online and you can find out information about your Social Security, and for those of you that pay taxes, you can pay your sales tax online. You also can do so many other things online, such as changing your driver's license. If you decide to change political parties, you can do all of that online. If you're on jury duty, you will register with the government online, and they will send you either a email or they'll send you something, and you'll have to fill that out, and it will determine whether or not you have the honor of being on a jury, or at least going in for jury selections. So we are now officially at the next slide, and we are a class discussion. So we are not going to do this now, because this is something that you should be thinking about when you read the chapter and you talk about the city of I cannot pronounce it, so I'm just going to say Massagua, and we're talking about the technologies and the organization and how to take. So these are things that you really want to be thinking about as you do your reading in here. So that is good for you. So here we're talking about collaboration, and if you've ever worked together, then obviously that's collaboration. So one of the things that I want to address is that there's so many factors that are leading to a growing emphasis in collaborations in the firm. So we're talking about changing work all the time, which requires more cooperation and coordination. I will give you an example right now. It's kind of touchy-feely, but if you take a look at what's going on in Congress right now, with all these bills that they're trying to get passed, and the necessary collaboration may or may not be working, but until they actually can make an agreement on these bills, that's going to determine whether or not they're going to be passed, whether or not they're going to be passed with modifications. And so here is a perfect example of how important collaboration can be in here. So also, you have so many professions that play a large part in the firms, and this requires consulting among experts. Before, I often, when I was an IT director, would collaborate with other IT directors from other schools, or possibly just people that I know about a problem. I'll give you a perfect example. Was I put in a new server, a print server, and I was having some issues with giving privileges to be able to do certain things in group policy. And no matter what I did, and this was based upon what happened previously to what I inherited with group policy, certain ones were getting pushed down and certain ones were not. And no matter what I did, I could not get the policy to take effect in terms of what I wanted it to do. So I collaborated with a friend of mine. He could not see anything wrong with what I was doing. He collaborated with a friend of his, and we had a three-way. And his friend, who worked on group policy as for a living, could not understand what it is. And finally, the fourth person finally saw what it was, and it was so minor that none of us saw it. So here it was collaboration that really, really, really helped in this particular age. So again, so we're talking about an emphasis of sharing and finding ideas, which requires collaboration. Well, one of the things we do during class is we try to share ideas primarily from where you're working, and hopefully that is very helpful. That's why I really like when we're able to get everybody in class so that we can have a nice discussion and have some really nice fellowship as well. So you can see the things that go into collaboration, but I want to emphasize on innovation, man. We need innovation in order for us to succeed. So, social business. Oh boy, we all like that. So Facebook, or whatever name they're going to go by shortly, Twitter, which I believe is owned by Facebook, or Instagram. I'll take it back. Twitter is Twitter. Facebook owns Instagram. You can see I am not on Twitter and I am not on Instagram. I do have accounts for both of them, but I never use them. I may log into Twitter only to see something that I get an email about something that somebody said, and it makes me log in there. So you can see everything is trending, all these hashtags and all these things are going out on social media. So we all know how tweets can work, how you send something out and all of a sudden 20 million people are talking about that. So anyway, social networking, we obviously is to engage employees, customers, and suppliers, send out a tweet about a new product, conversations to strengthen bonds, although I'm quite certain that they don't always do that. Here we go. Requires information transparency. I am not going to comment on that. You can make up your own mind in here. And seen as a way to drive operational efficiency, spur innovation, accelerate decision making. So those are all things that they are designed to do. Business benefits and social business over here. So the collaboration is really designed for greater productivity, faster reaction to market events, more innovation, faster implementation times than previously without collaboration. And to be honest with you, let's talk about my little issue with group policy. I worked on it for several days. No matter what I did, I could not get it to work in there. And it just was so annoying to me. But without the collaboration, I might not have ever been able to handle. If you go on to a site that has tech support, often you'll get a person that can't answer the question, and you get the infamous, "Can I put you on a brief hold?" Well, the term brief is never actually defined as in terms of how many minutes. Brief usually means 5 minutes. And when you get that music and then all of a sudden it stops playing, oh, please, hopefully I did not get disconnected. But they're either collaborating with somebody else asking the question, or who knows what they're doing. Maybe they decide to go out and get a cup of coffee or whatever it is. So moving on, we have the requirements for collaboration. Open culture, I look at culture not in terms of what nationality or where you're from, but culture just means a variety of different people in here. So that's the way I look at it. And then you have the collaboration in the technology. So basically, modern literature in a firm is the firms that support collaboration. They do it and they tend to perform better. And those are statistics that have come from research. And so what you need to think about, do you believe this? Have you had an experience with this where you work? What are the possible drawbacks of collaboration? I can think of one is it could take 6 months to get a decision on something that you should be able to do in 2 days. So, oops, somehow I have gotten past where I want to be in here. So 2 monitors, no waiting. All right, so we're going to move on over here. So I think you all know about email and instant messaging. We have set up a class chat, and hopefully everybody will join it. And all of a sudden, boom, we're talking about Carlos's son, who has been under the weather, and we were all able to keep track of his progress. And thank you, Carlos, for sharing that with us and allowing us to be a part of his recovery. But that is just one thing that we can use in there. If you send out an email, well, it depends upon how long you send and takes to read the email, then how long it takes for you to read the response. So here we have a opportunity for all of us to be able to spend time wishing him well, praying for him as you please, and to get the results pretty much instantaneously. Wikis, we talked about, is not as prevalent as it used to be. Virtual worlds, and we have collaborations in social business environments, and again, you can see how they all work. Probably Google Drive and Dropbox are really the biggest examples of that. SharePoint and IBM Notes are huge expenses, where Google Drive, they will give you, I believe, 1 gigabyte or 5 gigabytes, and then of course they'll nag you every day to try to increase it. Dropbox does the same thing. They used to give you extra for getting people to sign up for Dropbox. Not sure if they still do that, but I use Dropbox a lot for very important things in here, so never have to worry about it. Then of course you have your cloud collaboration services. Some of them are free, and some of the virtual meeting systems. Hey, how about Teledocs? Go to the doctor and don't have to go to the office. You sit there and they do the exact same thing for you. A lot of people have blood pressure machines, and everybody has scales, so you can do that. But, depending upon who you're going to see is whether or not there's going to be a teledoc available. But that certainly has taken big time since COVID, and you can't get in to see your doctor. Class discussion. Here we go. So this is something you're going to have to think about. Compare the capabilities of video conference tools described in the case. How do they promote collaboration? So you can read that on your own. You can read, I'm sure, as well as I can read. And here again, collaboration and selecting tools. And these are really the ideas that identify the problem that you have to adopt these technologies. And hopefully you're going to want to make them make sense. So key things are time and location. And how often have you heard, man, I just don't have enough time to do anything? And you always get the answer, well, you got to make time. You know how that works. So how to overcome these challenges in a cost-effective manner is really the difficult. So you can see the steps here that are involved, and I'll read them real quickly. What are your firm's collaboration challenges? What kind of solutions are available? Whether or not they're going to cost money, available products at cost and benefits. Evaluate security risks. Well, that's a big thing right now. There's a lot of risk in certain things that we do. The last thing you want is somebody to hack into your system, encrypt your files, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything, or you have to pay a ransom. Sure, you're all familiar with what happened recently with the oils. Whether or not they paid the ransom, we don't really know. And who knows how many other issues have in there. And then select candidate tools to evaluate vendors. And, you want to evaluate vendors on their merits. And we all know that there's nepotism and things involved in this, and politics and the whole 9 yards. We all know that. But in order to succeed, you really want to have the person that's going to give you the best prices and do the best job for you. So again, here is a matrix, which you can look at it. Of course, you got the face-to-face. And one thing is, it's not just a one-time deal. It's a marathon. I know our pastor always used to say, being a Christian is not a race. It's a marathon. So that's something that you have to do for the rest of your lives in here. In this particular case, we're talking about a business type of race. We're going to have a continuous task. Maybe large public display, do all kinds of different things over here. So we're talking about the matrix really focusing on 2 dimensions in there, which is basically time and space. So for you Star Trek fans, this might be right up your alley, and you might enjoy that over here. Different times, really, a lot of people think of asynchronous and synchronous, cannot remember the difference. Asynchronous is different. Synchronous, just think about synchronize your watches, where everybody has the same one in here. So we've talked about that, time and space, and you can take a look at this slide and pretty much learning in here. Systems knowledge, structured versus tacit knowledge, and then we have enterprise content management system and locating and sharing expertise. Key word there is expertise, not knowledge. Knowledge always isn't as good as people think it is. Expertise means high degree of knowledge in here. So here we have a management system. So we're going to create, capture, tag, store, retrieve, manage, review, distribute. This is if you've had IT 426, then really this is kind of exactly what we did over here. So the diagram itself shows how the enterprise content management system is going to enable the user to create or capture a tag, store and retrieve, manage, review, distribute or publish the data from a repository. A notice it's a unified repository. And the enterprise contents management system also enables users to access the following external resources. So you can see them there. Oops, I have done it again. 2 screens, no waiting. So let me go back to where I need to be, which happens to be right here. And I am needing to get my screen back up properly. So let me do that right now. And there we go. Okay. So that's the disadvantage of using 2 screens. Alright, so here we are. We only have 3 more slides left. So you can see all the different departments here, programmers, system analysts, they do pretty well. Information system managers, and as I stated in class, the only term I actually know what stands for is CIO, Chief Information Officer. I'm assuming they all stand for Chief something or other, but that's too many other things in here. So, so you have, they technically call them middle managers and things of that nature. So we're good over here. Let's move on. Information system service, computing services, telecommunications, data management, all these things. Now, unfortunately, so many of these are 1 or 2 people that have to do all that stuff. And it really, really, really can be difficult. You've heard the phrase master of many, jack of all trades, master of none. Sometimes cost-cutting measures require that to happen. I experienced that for many years working in small private Christian schools. They had money basically for just a 1-person IT staff. Some of the other schools in the Archdiocese had huge amount of money and huge staffs, but I was not involved in one of those ones, and I did the very best that I could. That's why collaboration for me was so strong. But one of the things that I emphasize is IT standards and IT education. So this is the way our IT is going to work, and nobody is going to deviate from that, period. And the educational services, I provided educational services for the students and for staff, the teachers and the staff. And that was the way it was going to be, because it needed to be. The person that was obviously implementing them had to be the one to be responsible for it. So again, here is how will MSI help my career? And we talked about the different things in here. So maybe get you a position, a nice high paying position, job requirements, interview questions. But before you apply for a job, basically everything. If you go through Indeed or any other one of those gazillion things that give you positions that are totally irrelevant to what you actually are applying for, all of a sudden they look at your resume, and the resume needs to be done professionally. They tell you to do your resume in Microsoft Word and do not convert it to a PDF, because they actually don't have a person looking at your resume. They have a computer program that is going to look at your resume, and it's going to look for specific things before it ever gets done and handed off to a person that will actually look at it. Then, of course, the job requirements. Before you apply for a job, look at the job requirements and make sure that you're qualified. Now, if you're not qualified, doesn't mean you can't apply. Just remember that if you do get hired, you want to be able to perform your job. Interview questions. Think about questions from our discussions that are going to be possibly asked for you in there. And when you go in there, ask questions of yourself. Know about the company. And I'll give you an example why we did not hire probably the most qualified principal. I was on a principal search committee, and we were interviewing potential principals for a high school. And he came in there, and we asked him a question, and he talked about a school that was not ours. And he was talking about a big school, so he might not have even realized what school he was applying for, or he just looked up the wrong school. And he really was the most qualified person. But if he's going to come in there and with wrong information, then you have to be very careful. So go and learn about the company that you're going to apply for. Even if it's Burger King, maybe you can go in there. Now, I'm not saying you're going to apply for Burger King, but maybe you want to apply for a high-level MIS position in Burger King, corporate headquarters, wherever they are. They used to be in Kendall. Don't know if they still are. Know about how many of this, how many of that. Know about certain things of MIS, and you go in there and ask these questions. Are you still doing this? Or maybe one of those questions come out. So you have all kinds of things. So this class is hopefully going to help you in developing new things and collaborations. So I hope that it works. This, unfortunately, is what it looks like when you're in a room and there's no windows and no lights. So now you know that. So that is everything for this slide, and that is everything for the 3 videos. So I'm going to end it there and look forward to seeing you soon. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful, safe day.